Really good. Really good.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hello to you.
Please start, Manji.
Hello to you. Sorry?
Yeah, we start now. Please. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello to you and you and you. Welcome to the Global Landscapes Forum Digital Conference, Food in the Time of Crises. Right now, at this very moment, you are joining with over 3,500 people from 6 continents. 3,500 people dedicated to landscape restoration, sustainable financial been hit hard by COVID-19, by the climate crisis, by food insecurity, by social injustices happening now. And it's important now more than ever to come together however we can and connect. And it's my utmost pleasure to be one of your hosts during this 3-day agenda-packed conference. I am excited. I am looking forward to the conversations and inspiring talks, but also to some stock taking since the previous Landscapes Forum. And as we get into that, I want to find out from you, where are you watching us from? Now, to answer this question, I would like you to go to slido.com. That is SLIDO.com. And once you're there, use the code GLF Bonn 2020 to answer this question. Okay? Did you get that? I can repeat it for you, just for you. Slido.com. That is SLIDO.com. And use the code GLF Bonn 2020. And let me know, where are you joining from? Are you in the kitchen, living room, in a hammock somewhere enjoying the breeze, or like me in Germany? Let me know. Let me know exactly where you are. Again, the website is slido.com, SLIDO.com, DOTCOM. And the code is GLF Bonn 2020. Now, we, and when I say we, I mean all of us really, you, me, everyone, are the world's largest knowledge-led platform on sustainable land use, dedicated to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and Paris Climate Agreement. How, you must be asking? By doing exactly this: sharing, connecting, learning, and acting together. You might be watching this on the Global GLF website, social media, or within our conference app, Hoover. You can use that on your phone as well. Please acquaint yourself of tools to make the conference even more engaging. Yes, I promise you, it's almost like you're here in a physical room. If you're watching on social media, I encourage you to register now for just $10 if you can. Join us in the app and join the networking. Share photos, watch videos, ask questions, and much more. Just head over to the website www.globallandscapesforum.org and have a chance to share your stories. Your work is important. Stories are important, and your participation change. So, why are we here today? Why? And why are we having a completely digital conference during a health pandemic? We're here because our health and livelihoods depend on it. Our health, food systems, and the planet's health are connected. So, over the next 3 days, let's see if we can answer this question together. How can we feed a growing global population without eating the planet? Yes, food systems are one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions, a main driver of deforestation, and a great threat to biodiversity. We need to transform the way we produce food. And as the COVID-19 pandemic is showing, we need to start now. Now, let's have a look at the slider results just now on your screen. And let's see, where are you actually living? Somewhere like me? Or are you outside? Which country are you in? Mm-hmm. Wow, wow, wow. Now that I know where you are, I want to ask you another question. Now figured out how easy it's rolling, right? In one sentence or one phrase, what does food and livelihoods mean to you? For those joining us now, you can go to slido.com and enter the code GLF Bonn 2020 to participate. All right, just jump into the opening room and participate. Let us know exactly what food and livelihood means for you. All right. Slido.com, if you're just joining us, it's SLIDO.com, and use the code GLF Bonn 2020. In one phrase, tell us how COVID-19 has impacted food and livelihoods in your communities. All right. Now, that question, our global network, and received video messages from around the world. Activists, farmers, students, and others who care about food and nutrition took the time to record themselves. Let's watch.
Food and livelihood means nourishment for growth and security for survival.
Food and livelihoods means identity and healthy.
Food is backbone of life, food is happiness, and food is joy.
Food and livelihood means good health, better life, and sustainability.
Food and livelihoods are the key for creating a just and sustainable future.
Food is the nutrition substance people or animal drink or eat is regarded as food.
I believe food and livelihoods are the ingredients that bind us together. It is our common ground and hence a universal experience. Let's make agriculture our new culture.
People having access to the available and consumption of nutritional food.
Food and livelihood is the availability of nutritious food for all classes of society that also helps the farmers' prosperity.
Food and livelihood means sustainable access to nutritious food and dietary needs for a healthy lifestyle.
Well, to me, the term food and livelihood means a food system where farmers, small farmers especially, get a fair income and the world's natural resources are conserved.
I believe that food and livelihood are of greatest importance and relevance to me. I believe that people need food in good quantity, and in dire times they need to find strategies and means to produce food to make it available for the community.
video is.
I will count down from 5 now, and then you add 10 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, 5,
All right,
4.
all right. What a great way to start us off with intense and very honest views of what food and livelihoods mean to certain people across the world. Now, we'll get into our plenary discussion, and COVID-19 has brought the planet to a halt, disrupting entire food systems, the global economy, environmental and climate efforts, and much, much more. What we are witnessing is a global syndemic or synergy of epidemics, crises that share root causes and reinforce each other, striking the world with one blow. It is clear that total system change is needed. And first, this plenary will highlight the urgent need for resilient, nutritious, and food-secure landscapes in order to achieve transformative change for our planet. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Tony Agroforestry Center, ICRAF. Tony has worked for over 30 years in development and research. Please welcome Tony Simons. Tony, the digital floor is yours.
Wanjiku, thanks very much, tremendously. And to echo her welcome to everybody, welcome to the Global Landscapes Digital. We couldn't do analog because of COVID, but in a way that's kind of good. So this GLF, maybe the Global Lockdown Forum, is saving those airfares, saving our carbon footprints. So there's a positive that has come from this crisis. But sadly, there's a whole lot of negatives as well. And we want to address those through our amazing set of speakers and sessions, but not only dwell on the crisis, but to think about what we're going to do about it. What are the answers to the questions we need? What are the solutions we have? What is the evidence we need to help politicians, scientists, planners, and others take decisions? So it's an exciting time at the moment because we're learning from it. Our vocabularies are changing. How many people use the phrase social distancing before COVID? In fact, it was a phrase, if you try and Google it, it's almost invisible. And within 3 months, we have 1.2 billion websites, 1.2 billion URLs that mention social distancing. It's a complete change of vocabulary about how we're addressing it. And what we're looking today in words and with vocabularies and narratives is to unpack the connection between food systems, our global food systems, and other systems. Our human health system, our transport system, our production systems, our financial systems, and to look at how each of those systems interact. Now, a system has 3 main attributes: inputs, outputs, and in the middle, some processes. There are other attributes as well. There are the boundary conditions. There are interfaces. There are controls. There are feedback loops. And there's also a context in which that system sits. But if one thing that COVID has really highlighted to all of us is we took too much for granted. And when we look at our food production and the way in which we manage and steward the landscapes around us, that is ever so clear. So how are we going to look at our food system in isolation of our health system, our transport system, our production, our financial, our social systems as well? Governments have had to take some hard choices, really hard choices, in terms of lockdown, in terms of social restrictions. And they come at cost. They come at cost to economy, to human health. And as we start to look at those systems, we're going to need metrics. We're going to need ways of looking at all of the win-win situations, which we all love. But what about where there's a loss? What about where there's a problem? Most people might say, well, if there's an intervention or a project or something going on and maybe 95% of people benefit from that and only 5% of people lose, that's acceptable. The problem is it's always the same 5 or 10% who lose, the marginalized, the dispossessed, the powerless, the voiceless. And one of the things that COVID has also shown us is to be more inclusive. That wonderful phrase, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. And in the Global Landscapes Forum, for a number of years, we've been looking at how to manage those landscapes. And today, this week, looking at how to manage those landscapes that satisfy us, that produce the food that we need. The 1.5 billion hectares in cropland, the 4.2 billion hectares in forest land, the 1.3 billion hectares in wetlands. These are the areas that give us the nutrients, the carbohydrates, the sustenance that we need towards those. So the new normal, building back better. These are the phrases that we're hearing now, that the crisis is over in many parts of the world. The wave is still to hit many parts of the world, but how are we going to be building back better? And what attention will we be giving to nature? In January, we were all looking forward to 2020 being that super year for nature. We had the COP15 of the Convention on Biological Diversity in Kunming. We had COP26 in Glasgow, the most significant climate meeting since Paris, where those amazing agreements were put out there. And they've been disrupted. They're not going to be held now, postponed or delayed. And sadly, some of those events celebrating nature will be cancelled. Fortunately, we still have time before the UN decade on ecological restoration, restoring ecosystems, that we'll hear about later on in this conference from our colleagues in UNEP and FAO and others. But we're falling behind when it comes to natural capital, to the way in which we manage these ecosystem services and products and inputs to our food production system. And that's the challenge for all of us, to think about those trade-offs, those metrics. How many cubic meters is the equivalent of one human life? How many different species of ant is the equivalent to 2 tons of rice production? We need to be much cleverer at looking at scenarios and trade-offs and equating what we call production. Our physical infrastructures were challenged during COVID because we couldn't move about in the same way as we have in the past. And in the same way, what we're looking to do is to make sure that we can, as we start to build back better to look at that natural infrastructure. That natural infrastructure is degrading. And much as when you build a new house and you have the first storm, the first thunder event, what happens?
A warm welcome to the Global Landscapes.
The window is not secure. See that there's a problem with some of the plumbing. And we've got to do that now with the way in which we look at our food production systems and the natural systems that underpin them. And that's going to be a key theme weaving throughout this of what do we learn from COVID, and what is the linkage between COVID and those systems that we're all working on. Now, when we talk about landscapes, many people think about the biophysical territory, the terroir, the land. But we have human landscapes. We have individuals in those landscapes. We have social landscapes, the way that the communities connect, production landscapes, financial landscapes. And what we've got to do is to find those linkages between those. How do we stimulate better recovery, better development, better stewarding of those different landscapes, the human landscapes, the social landscapes, the resilient natural ecosystem landscapes, the resilient production landscapes. That's going to be the real exciting outcome from this week. So as we move through the sessions today, we're going to be hearing from some very eminent people. And it's fitting that we start out with two extremely eminent people. First of all, the Mayor of Bonn that is hosting this GLF digital event and then hosts the GLF team in Bonn in Germany. And secondly, from the State Secretary for the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, Maria Flashbach. So without any further ado, let us turn over to Ashok Sridharan and Maria Flashbach for their opening words for us at the start of this first GLF Digital.
A warm welcome to the Global Landscapes Forum community. Herzlich willkommen, as we would say here in Bonn, Germany, home to the Secretariat of the Global Landscapes Forum. I am honored to co-open this first fully digital Global Landscape Forum, and I commend the Global Landscapes Forum team and the leadership of two Director Generals, Tony Simons of World Agroforestry and Robert Nazi of the Center for International Forestry Research, for taking this bold step into the future of conferencing. This is one of the world's first global online digital conferences on sustainable land use, marking a new era in global conversation. Only recently, the Global Landscapes Forum opened a state-of-the-art digital broadcasting center with funding by the Foundation for International Dialogue of the Savings Bank in Bonn. Bonn will now assume a new role as a central digital knowledge and news center, connecting leaders and experts from around the world, all virtually, in the spirit of cooperation which characterizes this international city. As Germany's United Nations city, Bonn is home to over 20 UN entities, surrounded by a dedicated cluster of almost 170 key players in sustainability. My city is delighted to support the activities of international NGOs like the Global Landscapes Forum, who strive to bring people together to connect, share, learn, and act on sustainable landscapes fits perfectly with the spirit and vision of Bonn and of cities around the world. In my capacity as president of ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability, I speak for almost 1,750 jurisdictions dedicated to the pathways of sustainable urban development. For the past months, the global pandemic has challenged us beyond limits. However, it has also taught us important lessons. When building back, we will need to build back better, starting with food security and resilience. And while doing this, we may benefit extremely from the solutions nature itself is providing us with. We cities will be key in this process. Therefore, I cannot only assure you of our utmost support to the Global Landscapes Forum community, but I would also like to extend an invitation to our virtual event to come, the Daring Cities Forum this October. The forum will also be one major channel to the climate and biodiversity negotiations. Please accept my best wishes for your conference and thank you for listening. Take care.
Mr. Simons, ladies and gentlemen, the Global Landscapes Forum is one of the most important platforms for sustainable landscape management. It gives scientists, practitioners, municipalities, and political decision makers a chance to exchange ideas, build networks, and learn from each other across disciplines. This year's forum focuses on one of the most important questions for the future of humankind. How can we end hunger while protecting the biological wealth of our planet? Current conditions are making it even harder to meet this challenge. In spite of development achievements, more than 820 million people still suffered from hunger last year. In East Africa, the worst locust plague in decades is destroying the livelihoods of millions of small farmers. Climate change is making the situation even worse. Now, in addition to all this, the COVID-19 pandemic is hitting the world. In many countries, it is not only causing a health crisis, but also an economic and food crisis. An additional 130 million people are threatened by hunger now. 500 million people might be thrown into extreme poverty. In Africa, half of the jobs are risked due to the pandemic, including many in agriculture. All this has disastrous consequences for local and regional food security. The COVID-19 crisis may undo the development progress of the last few decades. We must not let that happen. My ministry is therefore preparing an emergency COVID-19 support program for 1 billion euros. 1 in 5 euros from that package will go forward to food security, for example, forward supporting the work of the World Food Programme and the Global Agricultural and Food Security Programme. Our activities are designed to address both the consequences of the COVID-19 crisis and the consequences of climate change. Sustainable food security means that we need to consider the health of humans, animals, and the natural environment in a holistic way. The transmission of the new coronavirus from animals to humans shows the dangers posed by the rapid loss of ecosystems. We can prevent this through sustainable agriculture and land use, and we need to restore degraded landscapes. Our COVID-19 package will therefore strengthen One Health approach with focuses on human, animal and environmental health. In order to better understand the complex interdependencies and develop sustainable solutions, we need effective research. So, we welcome the reform process of the Consultative Group of International Agricultural Research, and we are glad about the merger of the Center for International Forestry Research and the World Agroforestry Center. We wish them continued success. Ladies and gentlemen, the current pandemic shows the great importance of good governance and joint action. At present, policymakers, scientists, and civil society are working very closely together everywhere. Now, we also need joint action in the effort of create a world without hunger to save our planet. I'm convinced that we can succeed. In every crisis, there is opportunity.
What two inspiring talks we've heard there from the Mayor of Bonn and also Maria Flashbach. And it's an opportune time for us to thank our sponsors, our supporters, for providing these great facilities to us. And the financial support comes to the Global Landscape Forum from the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, and also the Federal Ministry for Environment, CNU, Germany, supporting this fantastic venture that we've been on all together for the last 5 years or so. So now we can come to our first Slido question that was posed to you by Wanjiku. And I wonder if our technicians can put up those results for you to our first real question. So what this slide shows us is those terms that we've used inside our phrase, inside our sentence of how COVID-19 has impacted our food and livelihood systems. Uncertainty stands out. That is the biggest thing that people have had looking at these. And when we look at systems, there are two types of systems, deterministic systems and probabilistic ones. And it's the probabilistic ones that have that uncertainty. We thought we knew it all. We had our system, remember? Input, processes, output. And we thought our food production system was that simple. And it's forcing us to look at that. Shortage, disruptions in supply chains. Typically, the words sustainability, food waste, disruption, tremendous vocabulary there for us to start building on in those conversations throughout the week. Amazing. So moving quickly on, we'd like to come to our third video. And this is a video from a very special person. This is Father Jostrom Isaac Carithadum. And he is the special envoy to Pope Francis. He's based in the Vatican. He's a special envoy on food and climate. Can we please key up the video from Father Jostrom?
Good morning to all of you. As I speak to you from the Vatican, please allow me to bring you best wishes, greetings and prayers from His Holiness Pope Francis. We are living in a very difficult time. The COVID-19 emergency and along with it, several other crises we have been living with. The climate crisis, the biodiversity loss, water scarcity, all these crises put together. And I think there are two things we have learned from the COVID-19 and the other crises. First of all, that we cannot be healthy if Earth, our common home, is not healthy. We cannot be healthy if the ecosystems that sustain life are not healthy. We cannot be healthy if the planet is not healthy. So that's the first lesson we have been learning. A second lesson, as important, is that we cannot be healthy if all of humanity, the entire human family, is not healthy. I cannot be well if my family is sick. I cannot be well if my village or city is sick. I cannot be well if my country or if the entire world is not well. We are all interconnected. We are all interdependent. Crisis is a difficult moment, but as we learn in the original Greek etymological origin of the word crisis, crisis also means an opportunity. And this is a golden opportunity for humanity to build together a new world. And my prayer, my dream for all of you, for all of us gathered together for the Global Landscapes Forum, is that together we build a new world. That the sufferings, that the difficulties that we go through may be the birth pangs of a new world. And I would like to dream of a world in terms of three adjectives. First of all, that the new world that we would like to create be a sustainable world. The stimulus packages and all the things we are doing already and we will do to overcome the COVID-19 crisis also have to keep in mind the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, the food crisis, the water scarcity, and we need to address all these problems together. Because as we said, if the world is not healthy, none of us can be healthy. My second dream is that we build together an inclusive world, a world in which everyone is considered precious, everyone is considered important, where everyone's dignity is respected. And how can we create an inclusive society? only when we begin with the weakest amongst us. It's like in a family when a child falls sick, everyone comes around that child. And we are a human family. To be an inclusive family or society, we have to begin with the weakest. And allow me to stress that we begin with children, with women, with indigenous communities, with migrant laborers, with refugees. Let's begin. Put the poor at the center, the most vulnerable people at the center. Then we'll find that we are all together. The third and the final dream is that we have a deeper perspective of land. In the Bible, we say that the human person was born from Adamah, which in Hebrew means land, earth. We are all earthlings. We are all imago mundi. And we need to rediscover a more harmonious relationship with the land. We need to see in the land not just real estate or even land to cultivate or to mine, but land as that which connects us to God, the Creator. In Assisi, close to Rome, there lived St. Francis of Assisi, who, seeing a flower or a butterfly or a tree, would go into ecstasy because that butterfly, that flower, put him in touch with the Creator. So, like poets, like mystics, like saints, we need to see more into the land. And that's what indigenous communities have been teaching us. For them, land is where God dwells. Land is where they live as community. Land is where their ancestors are buried. And land is so rich for them. So as we are together for the Global Landscape Forum, let's together build a more sustainable world, a more inclusive world, and let's rebuild our relationship with the land from which we came and to which we shall return. Have a blessed meeting, and we shall accompany you with our prayers. God bless you.
Great, some very inspiring words there from Father Jostrom, the Special Envoy at the Vatican to Pope Francis. The organizers have no particular endorsement of any religion, and the words quoted there from the Bible could equally be quoted from the Quran, from the Torah, from the teachings of Buddha. What we were seeking to do is to build in that element of faith-based approaches. And those people who aren't of faith can still believe in those views to build back, to connect with nature, to focus on the marginalized, the insecure, the poorest in our world, and to make sure that as we build back, we do it with really solid design principles based around human values. So tremendous that we could hear those words. So let's move on, and let's move on to our next Slido question. And this question is around the issue of contributions. We often hear in conferences, somebody else should do something, bankers, governments, etc. What are we going to be doing ourselves? We have intended national determined contributions. We have corporate contributions. But what have we got in relation to things that we will be doing ourselves? So I can see the answers to getting ready and prepared, as opposed to the next question. 53 people have responded to that. So what I'm looking for is the next question. And that question is, what are you going to do yourselves? How are you going to commit yourselves to changes, your individual contributions? Okay, so what we're seeing here is the results of a previous question. We were hoping to tee up our next question. So we've got a lot of answers here, and the next question. Okay, while we're waiting for that, let's look what's happening here. Okay, so this is the problem of production teams being in 3 or 4 different countries and having to rely on different platforms as these delays. So thank you for bearing with us. This is the first day of GLF Digital, and these issues we will resolve for you as we go through the week. So here was the response to our first question, response to our second question, and our third question, which we're looking for, and maybe we can move on as we try and find that elusive third question. There's a good time to reflect on the numbers that we're seeing. 130 people, most feel that they're ready and prepared. Okay, so as we seek to pull that question out, let's come to our next videos, our next pre-recorded videos from 2 equally inspiring speakers. One is Yemi Adeyeye, and Yemi is the Young Professionals in Agricultural Research and Development, and he's going to be speaking to us from the youth perspective. And the second one is Jose Iturios, who's the National Director for the Peruvian Cocoa Alliance. So it'd be great to hear from youth and from a national initiative that's looking at addressing these issues from a single commodity point of view. Let's tee those up.
Hi everyone, this is Yemi. Greetings from an apartment in Rome, in Italy. If you're listening to me, it means you're healthy, you're alive, which is a good thing. And we are in a strange time. The pandemic has affected a lot of things and every one of us. But it's very key for us to recognize that the effect of the pandemic is disproportionately felt. Some people are more vulnerable than the others. And for someone like me, I'm a Nigerian, a black man, and I'm in Europe. I have my job secured, my income secured. I could put food on my table. I could access my basic needs. This is a sort of a two-sided of the world that I embody in myself, because I also know that there are friends and family back at home in Nigeria who have it more difficult than me, and the same thing. If every one of us reflect on our position and the advantage we have, we would realize that the conversation that we're going to have in the GLF needs to happen in a particular way. There need to be some particular kind of topics and some particular kind of areas that we need to address. Topic that I think we need to address is how can we have sustainable landscape management that supports sustainable food production in ways that we can achieve food, we can make sure food is available for everybody, including vulnerable people, young people, indigenous peoples, rural communities, and also in ways that there are sustainable source of income generation and employment for different people in the society as well. And it's easier to have a discussion about how we can have a sustainable landscape or how we can have sustainable food production in silos, but it becomes a little bit complicated when we have to have these discussions together, and then we have to have it in a situation where all our advice, all our solutions are very are context specific in ways that vulnerable people, rural youth, rural communities can associate themselves with our solutions. One thing I'm trying to get to actually is also a conversation that pays attention to the politicization of food and diet. It's not going to be easy to have this discussion because there are going to be contested topics. We need to remember within these conversations that the idea of what makes food food is connected to cultures of people. And in situations where we're having these conversations with empathy and with an understanding, we will push forward solutions that matters to people on the ground. Not just solutions that work for the wealthy and for the privileged communities or people like us. On the other hand, remembering that there are young people who need jobs, who need to transition from being a juvenile to being an adult, who will need to have to secure their future via secured employment opportunities. People need to make money, and that's in the real world. So how can we have a sustainable landscape together with sustainable food systems, with the opportunity for income generation and food production for everyone? So this is the issue right there. And from my hand as a young professional and someone that speaks for young professional in my job, we need to look at investment opportunities across different institutions at different levels that are conversant with the peculiarity of young professionals on the ground, in the sense that young professionals don't have all the security and collateral that investment portfolios often demand. So there are ample bodies of evidence that shows that is the reason why young people cannot actually have a robust enterprise on the ground. So how can we make that possible? What conversations do we need to have? What kind of call to action needs to take place? A key issue right here is not just to discuss about these solutions, but to also itemize needs on the ground to institutions who are present in these conversations. Who will do what? Who will volunteer to lead a particular process? This will be key.
Bienvenidos a la conferencia digital del Global Landscape Forum. Estoy muy agradecido a los organizadores del evento por haberme invitado. Para nosotros es un gran honor poder compartir nuestra experiencia y poder aprender las experiencias de otros participantes en este importante evento. Mi nombre es José Iturrío, soy el director de la Alianza Cacao Perú, una iniciativa público-privada apoyada por la Agencia de los Estados Unidos para el Desarrollo Internacional, USAID, que busca mejorar el ingreso de 24.000 pequeños productores de cacao aquí en Perú. Buscamos hacer más competitiva las parcelas de cacao para que produzcan más cacao en menos espacio y de esta forma reducir la presión sobre los bosques. Hoy el cacao mayoritariamente en todo el mundo se produce bajo un modelo que se caracteriza por ser intensivo en bosque, tener bajos costos de mano de obra y una muy baja productividad en comparación con el potencial biológico de la planta. La productividad promedio a nivel mundial es alrededor de 500 kilos por hectárea. Sin embargo, el potencial biológico de la planta supera las 3 toneladas. Esto lleva a que tengamos productores de cacao mayoritariamente pobres y además presionan el bosque para aumentar su área de producción, ya que su nivel de productividad por hectárea es muy bajo. En la Alianza Cacao Perú trabajamos para cambiar este modelo predominante en la producción de cacao, que hasta ahora ha mostrado ser muy poco amigable con el medio ambiente y con los productores. El modelo de negocios que impulsamos se basa en 3 pilares: diferenciación, productividad y resiliencia climática. Diferenciación por calidad y sabor, apuntar a mercados de mayor valor. Productividad, buscamos inyectar masivamente tecnología para producir más en menos espacio y reducir la presión. Y resiliencia climática, promover masivamente la incorporación de árboles maderables al cultivo de cacao, lo cual permitirá recuperar el paisaje amazónico y generar ingresos a largo plazo para el productor. Tenemos más de 24.000 productores con los que venimos trabajando en ese sentido en las 3 regiones con mayor producción de cacao en el Perú. Por otro lado, la crisis del COVID nos ha hecho ver la importancia de la pequeña agricultura para el abastecimiento de alimentos en la ciudad. Importancia que no es correspondida con la atención que el Estado y el sector privado les ha venido prestando en estos años. Tenemos productores muy pobres, sin acceso a servicios de salud ni medicinas para hacer frente al COVID. Esto puede poner en peligro toda la oferta mundial de alimentos si no se hace algo pronto. El mundo requiere más alimentos, más seguros y sin dañar los bosques. Esta es una tarea de todos, de los estados, del sector privado y de la cooperación internacional. Muchas gracias.
Super. So that rounds off the video segments for the opening session. And we've heard from government, we've heard from civic bodies, we've heard from faith-based organizations, civil society, and youth. But we haven't heard from the private sector. And I'd like to introduce our panelists, and her name is Ada Osakwe. She's based in Nigeria, in Lagos, and she is the CEO of AgriLay. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning, Tony. How are you?
Great, and it's a delight to have you with us this morning. So I'd like to launch straight into the chat. You live in Nigeria, a country with over 200 million people, and more than half of those live in cities. So how has that disrupted life, those food supply chains, the footprint of labor, of energy, of transport in feeding that growing population of Kano, of Lagos, of Cross Rivers, and other places?
Yes, Tony. Honestly, it's just, I'm listening to everything at today's conference and I'm thinking, how did we get here? You know, we've been making all these plans for a better system, a better planet, and suddenly what's happening right now has truly exposed us to all those cracks in our system. And this is such a great conversation to be having. Let's fix it. Let's do what we need to do to go forward. But yes, you know, Lagos alone, where I am, it's 21 million people. It's the fifth biggest city in Africa and one of the largest economies. So I think about myself as a business owner and in the food chain, in the food system, because we buy from farmers and we sell on fresh produce to consumers. And we have been affected all the way. From the supply chain side, with the lockdowns, closure of borders, our farmers can't get things to us from the rural areas. So we can't get the food from the rural farms to the urban centers. Even if we do, the prices have more than doubled. So today we have farmers sitting on their lands with food that's wasting because they harvested, but they can't take it out. So it's really, it's been a very, very strong, very, very, very serious issue. As we think about the demand side, from an urban perspective, you have a situation where people are sitting at home. They don't trust the system. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to touch anything. They're very particular about what they eat. So we're seeing that increased consciousness. And I think some of our speakers mentioned issues around health and the role food plays in health. And I think that going forward, as we talk about this new normal, is going to be quite paramount in how we interact as communities.
Great, thanks, Ada. Now, let me put you on the spot a bit because private sector have been incredibly disruptive. You mentioned supply chains as well yourselves. Profitability, the bottom line is going to be hit. We used to talk about a triple bottom line of thinking about profit and people and planet. Is there going to be more of a pressure to build back the profit before we start building back the planet or the social connections between people?
Very, very interesting question, Tony. But I wonder, I would want to say that maybe that's not the case because we've become so interconnected. You can't have one without the other. So by virtue of building your profit, you're building the wealth of farmers. You're building the wealth. You're ensuring your environment is fine for those of us who are in that triple bottom line space. But it's a really great question, because indeed I do see maybe larger corporations looking forward to focusing on that bottom line revival, as opposed to thinking through their community and their social responsibilities. Great question.
Great. So how can we help with the business case for recovery, the business case for restoration, the business case for focusing on that green infrastructure?
It's especially in the urban centers, the case is right there, Tony. We think about the fact that I mentioned earlier, borders are closed. Borders are closed, so I am a business owner and we buy only from local farmers. But because I'm in an urban area, we don't plant so much. So we have to depend on the food coming in from the north, from the rural areas where there are farms and where there's more land. But now the borders are closed and we're sort of just left looking at each other. So I'm thinking about business cases for urban farming, for greening our cities, for ensuring there's more food autonomy, for ensuring we have maybe backyard farming so people can be more self-sufficient at times like these. I'm actually, as an investor, investing in a company that looks at urban farming and does a lot of precision farming, using water better, water management, thinking through how things are planted and planting more nutritious foods. So to me, that really is the business case to an extent, because we suddenly have been left open. Like I said, there are gaps, but people still have to eat. So how do we use investments to transform the way they eat and what they eat at a time like this? And for me, that's investing in better nutritious foods, especially in urban areas as we green our cities.
I would like to ask you a whole lot more questions about Nigeria, about Africa, about global food supply, about how we build back. Sadly, we're running out of time. It's been an absolute delight. If you had one soundbite to leave us with, what would that be?
I just think that we should go local. In every way, I think about what's going on, and let's know how we just go local, because local farming, instead of importing and stuff, it just touches more lives in many ways.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, you've heard it here from GLF Digital, go local. And that brings us to our problematic Slido question. It's no disrespect to Slido, they run a great platform, but we couldn't integrate it as well into our opening session. We'll try and get on top of that. That's one of the problems of having people based in Canada, the US, Germany, Kenya, Indonesia, all around the world trying to pull off this first GLF Digital. Bear with us, it's going to really accelerate and be seamless throughout the week. It's been a delight having our pre-recorded sessions, been a delight having Ada with us, and Wanjiko as our MC. And just before I hand over to her, let's leave you with that thought. It's not about identifying what anyone else can do. Let's identify what we can do. Our own individually determined contributions. And you heard it from Ada, go local. Go local. Not go loco, go local. Thanks very much, Ada. And let me hand it back to Wanjiku.
Thank you very much, Tony Simmons. That was an insightful conversation that you had there with several people. And yes, don't go local, go local. Taking personal, individual responsibility, quite a good reminder, and setting the tone for our conversation the entire conference. Thank you so much, Tony. Now, you might be wondering, what else is in store for me today? You, I mean. We have a lot of things that you can engage in. The agenda in Hoover, actually, have you downloaded this app? Because it shows you everything that is happening in your time zone. So you don't need to do the calculations of what is CEST in my time, right? This is what digital is allowing us to do. Enjoy something at your own time. Now, if you're watching on Facebook, and here I would like to acknowledge Frank Juan from Olongapo City in the Philippines. We also have Asmita from Nepal who was watching on the live stream on Facebook. I would like to encourage you to jump over to the GLF site, that is the globallandscapesforum.org, and purchase a ticket to join the conference if you can. And maybe if you talk to me nicely, I could organize a ticket for only 2 people. All right. So please just jump over to the website, register, and join this great discussion that we are having. We also have incredible themes. For example, the learning tracks. We have 3 tracks for you, which can help you find out what you want to really focus on. Is it storytelling? Is it finance and value chains and measuring progress? Make sure to sign up for this because they're filling up really, really quickly. I actually have someone who has asked me, is there any more space? I know it's digital, but as we have seen, even with digital, it comes with some limitations. So make sure you register for any event that is interesting for you, all right? What else is coming up? There is the Youth Daily Show at 1200 CEST. That is happening every day. And in this daily show, we will be handling some big questions. You're curious, aren't you? Aren't you? Make sure you make a date with the young people who are revolutionizing reclaiming landscapes. Today's debate will be plant-based versus local sourced diets. What do you think? What do you think? Please let us know. You can also learn how to cook Catalan cuisine with Ada Parejada. Yes, this is happening at exactly 1300 hours. You do not want to miss it because it is short, but trust me, it is sweet. It's gonna be sweet, so do not miss out on that. Perhaps you're interested in communication and journalism. Now, as part of the GLF Bonn 2020 Digital Conference, 10 sessions designed by the editor of Landscape News will form the storytelling track. Yes, how do you report these heavy topics in a way that everyone can join into the conversation? Make sure you do not miss out on that session. At 2 p.m. CEST, a session of sustainable food security and nutrition in a time of crisis with SIGA research program on forests, trees, and agroforestry. Sounds like your cup of tea? You know what to do. And there afterwards, in the afternoon at 5 p.m. CEST again, make sure you have WUFA. WUFA just makes things so much easier because this CEST, I also struggle when I'm calling my country Kenya in converting, and Hoover will be the solution to that. So at 5 p.m. CEST, we invite you into the world of indigenous Nahua people, where anthropologist Wiza Pare and filmmaker Martin Bege will share their experiences. Several of the indigenous artisans involved in the project will also join in the discussion and will share their experiences in restoring forests and leaving water for future generations. Listen, you don't just watch a film and then have an opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So please make sure you also join that. If you feel like sitting back, check out the video contribution gallery to see what our partners and allies are working on from around the world. I'm telling you, we have everything for everyone. Yeah, make sure you download that Hoover app to get all this goodness. Now, for those of you watching in Hoover, check out the agenda on the app, either on your desktop or on your smartphone. So if you don't have enough space on your smartphone, don't worry. You can still access it on your desktop because there is a lot that is happening. I'm just going to quickly read some comments that we have been receiving on WUFA. We have one from Eliza, who is watching in from Switzerland. We have Pete Dawson from Sydney, Australia. We have Alexander Strung from Ethiopia. We have so many people. Unfortunately, because of time, I will not be able to read all of your names, but trust me, I am looking, I am watching, I am reading your comments, and I'm enjoying the conversations that are happening on this platform. Again, I encourage you to join Hoover because you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to meet people with whom you can engage on this particular topics that are very, very passionate for us. Now, if you have any issues with the app, check out the FAQ document located on the app. It should be on the left side menu on your desktop or under that FAQ in the mobile app. So in case you have any questions, you can find your way around the app. It's very easy to navigate. And just to remind you, for most of the sessions, we offer live translation to Spanish or French or English. Just click on the session that you want to watch, and in the description, you will see a link to Translation Services Interactio. All right? So we got you covered. Do not say that it's all in English. I don't understand anything. We've got you. Okay? And right now, the sessions that are coming up, how wild foods can boost nutrition, livelihoods, and biodiversity. We'll learn from Benin. The session will be in French and English. And like I said, there will be also translation. We also have Forest Frontiers, accelerating forest positive solutions for sustainable food and livelihood. That will be catered for by BirdLife International. So go over to these sessions, enjoy yourselves. And if you're watching on any other platform other than their website, Global Landscapes Forum, please ensure you come to the website so you can interact more with the people and within the session. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you a little later after the session.